Hi everyone. So this video is just a quick video to discuss what I have learned in evidence-based practice class and how I've improved over the semester. So to begin, the very first video that I had made that talked about what I knew in evidence-based practice pretty much discussed that I knew of the term and that I knew of the practice. So in undergrad, I had practiced evidence-based practice. We were taught it, and we were taught how to research articles and to apply them to whatever we were doing within our practice with our patients. So I was very familiar and was familiar at the beginning of the semester with how to go about performing evidence-based practice. But then I learned a great deal more about it through the class. So there are several things that I have learned over the semester that maybe I already knew but wasn't putting to practice anyways, since during undergrad I might have not been held accountable for that high quality research. So one of the things that I already knew of but didn't necessarily know how to apply, or kind of probably just forgot about it, about how to apply it, was the 5-step method for reading the articles. And once Dr. Games had us start incorporating the 5-step method, it was a little frustrating in the beginning because it took a long time. If you weren't used to the 5-step method, then it did take a while. Like, I literally wrote down the 5-step method, and when I was reading the articles, I would check off each step. And so while it took a while, in the articles that I use that method with, I actually understood the articles, and I didn't have to go back a lot of times and look at the results because I forgot what they were, or I forgot details within the intervention. Like, I actually remembered the majority of what I had read and throughout the article, and for that I saved time later because I didn't have to reflect on the article so much. So I found this method to be really helpful, and the more I started using it, the faster I became, and I still have a long way to go. But this semester made me realize just how valuable it was to stop and actually reread certain sections at certain times, and so on. So another thing that I had learned was how to kind of organize the article. So this kind of goes with the 5-step method. I also learned how to organize what I wanted to highlight in what colors with the article. So I would pick a color for the most important factors of the article that I knew that if I were to write about, I would definitely want to include this. And then I picked a different color for like the basic information of the article, say the authors and the year and the journal, something that I would include within just a description of maybe the very basics of the article with the abstract. So that was a different color. And then I would pick a different color for maybe the very important results, like the biggest results, and then a separate color for the results that were good to know, but maybe not necessarily something that I would include within an abstract or a brief summary of the article. So on. So I learned how to organize the article to what I thought was most important, maybe what the authors indicated was most important. Another thing that I had learned was the difference between clinical experience and clinical expertise, which actually we had a lecture about that during DAT weekend, so it wasn't something that was necessarily ingrained in me during the semester as it was towards the end of the semester. And it's actually really good to know because it makes me think about the majority of the research that I look at, and that the research that I've been looking at pretty much deals with clinical experience, and then clinical expertise is probably much higher than the research that I've been looking at. So it was good to know that there was a difference between the two, and which one actually comprised of the majority of my research. Another thing was that I learned how to better my research strategies. So, learning towards the beginning of the semester of how to use Boolean phrases and limit years of the years of within publication, and limit your search by just authors or certain phrases you want just in the title, or you want those phrases searched throughout the whole entire article. And so really learning how to narrow down my research so that I got the best and most applicable articles after I completed the search, it was highly valuable, which I can say that I was not good at in undergrad. I learned of Boolean phrases, and that was pretty much it. And in undergrad, I knew that I couldn't really use articles over 10 years. So, but other than that, I wasn't very effective when I searched for articles, and it took me forever. But now I can, get on whatever database that I want to get on, and I know now how to make a search more effective so that it's more time efficient. And I'm not wasting my time searching, and I'm not wasting my time getting results that just aren't applicable to what I am looking for. So that was a big help, learning that this semester. So those are pretty much the top 4 basic things that I either learned just from the semester, or that I probably already knew of but were really ingrained in me. And then when I finally started utilizing those 4 methods within my search and within looking at the literature and organizing it, I have learned how to become more efficient. I've learned how to become more efficient at searching for what I'm looking for. So I think if I were to talk about what makes me the most proud, like what do I think is the biggest accomplishment of the semester, I would say it was the clinical bottom line paper and presentation. And not because I think it turned out well or that I wrote the paper well. It just the search process for the PICO question that I had used, just the process of searching and the process of the writing, learning how to write more scientifically, professionally, that was what made me feel proud about it. I can't say that my work was the highest quality work, because it wasn't. I know that now, after reflecting back, that the reviews that I had picked probably weren't the highest quality. The clinical trials that I picked weren't the highest quality. But I wouldn't have known that at the beginning of the semester. I would have thought that my paper and my presentation was amazing, or probably the best in undergrad. And now I know that I have a long road to go when it comes to searching for quality research, but the fact that I was able to reflect on that and understand that after I had written the paper and done the presentation, that made me proud. And with that, the question that I have is that, I picked a PICO question mostly because I was interested, but also because it was a question that I could actually find research on. So my question is, if the next time we write a clinical bottom line paper, is a clinical bottom line paper only written when there is sufficient evidence? Say I have a PICO question and it's kind of unanswerable. Maybe there's not any research on it. Then what am I supposed to do? Not write a paper on it because there isn't enough research to write a paper that gives a clinical bottom line. So I guess I picked the PICO question because I found some research on it. And if I hadn't, then I would have had to choose a different PICO question. But then the first PICO question wouldn't have ever been answered. So I guess, what do you do in that fact? You just settle for the fact that you can't find research. And then you go, do you turn to other people's clinical experience? What do you do? So I think that's my biggest question about the clinical bottom line paper is, when is it actually applicable? When is it appropriate to write? And when do you not want to write a clinical bottom line paper? But overall, I learned a ton. And I can't say research is my favorite thing, but the fact that I've learned so much about it makes me realize that the next time I need to research, then I feel a ton more prepared for it. And that makes me happy about research. So yeah, thank you for listening to this video about the EBP class.